I don't know if you knew this, but Adrian Tchaikovsky writes some really good books. Let's talk about one of them. Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Pete. This is the Ponderings of Pete, where I talk about fantasy, some sci-fi, and just books in general. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you tuning in like this is some sort of television program, and I really hope that you will, hit that subscribe button. I also would like to say that I appreciate each and every one of you that watches, that comments, that likes, subscribes. I really appreciate all the interaction and just, every once in a while there's still a bit of like, oh wow, people do the thing. I'm surprised. That being said, let's talk about City of Last Chances by Adrian Tchaikovsky. I read this ended last month. I think I mentioned it in my recent wrap-up. So going into this, I knew I was going to really, really like this book, right? Evie had been talking about it for a while. She was only Evie. Alan had been talking about it as well, and they both were like, oh my gosh, this is so good. I was like, this is going to be interesting. I did not expect this book to be what it was, right? Despite everything that I'd heard, I think that this book exceeded the expectations for myself. And I'm going to try not to overhype it, but like in the end, I think I'm going to end up really hyping it a lot because I really, really liked this book. So what is this book at its core about? Well, I think I can sum that up in one word. Rebellion. This book is about a city. It's the city of Ilmar, who happens to be the main character. Not like there's a bunch of characters that are central to the narrative, but like it's mostly about the city. This city has been taken over by people that are colloquially referred to as the occupiers. They have an actual name. I forget what it actually is. These are invaders that are like, we've discovered the perfect society and we will perfect the world. And right now they are in Ilmar. And one of the things that's really interesting about this book is the hypocrisy of the invaders, right? They're saying, there are times throughout the book where it's like, hey, we're using imperfect methods to bring about a perfect society, which is war. And there's so many little things in this, these villains that are hypocritical. There's the temporary commission of ends and means where they're like, you know what, we're in charge, but we're only in charge temporarily. And they've been in charge for centuries at this point in time because their goal is to take over the world, and they haven't done that yet. So until then, they're temporary. Of course. This book really focuses on the disconnectedness and like tribalism of humankind, right? Well, mostly humankind. Just people. We'll go with people because that includes non-humans. There are numerous different factions at work in this city that are working against the occupiers, but at the same time, a lot of them are also working against each other as well, right? This tribalism, you have the students, you have the factory workers, you have the ravens, you have the vultures, you have several other different factions that are also involved, and all of them are lacking in things. There may be some of the other pieces, might click. Some of the other factions might have those pieces they're missing, but like there is this general distaste for working with others, and that is shown to be like, hey, this is why the revolution hasn't happened already, because everybody's really bad at working with people, or other people specifically. There's always somebody else to despise. There's always someone else that you can put down no matter who you are in this city. It's a very bleak view, honestly. As I said before, the city is the main character, right? You have, and this city is super vibrant. You have the Hammer District where the factories are. You have the wood, which is something that has stood since time immemorial, and is just a bunch of trees that go places. You have the Armagine mansions where all the rich people live. You have you have the Reproach, which is another piece of mysterious city history that you see glimpses into. Like, this is a part of the city where nobody goes. It's vibrant, and also there's a lot of deplorable parts to it that are kind of like, that's a thing? Oh my. And throughout it all, there's also this sense of mysteriousness about the city. And a lot of that comes from very specific parts of it, but it is very much feels like a living entity, and the people are its lifeblood. important point that you should know before reading this book is that this book is a multi-POV. And I would say it's a multi-POV book to the max, right? So the city's the main character, and we bounce it between a lot of different perspectives. I won't tell you how many because I haven't counted. There are 4 or 5 characters that are kind of central to the narrative, and they pop up in different POVs, some of the times in their own POVs, but they're all around this stuff. But throughout the book, there are new characters introduced all throughout, right? You'll have, like, within the last few chapters, there's a new POV, right? Maybe somebody that you've heard about before, maybe not, who knows? I will say that throughout all of this POV switching, I did not find it jarring for the most part. And what I mean by jarring is I didn't find myself situated in a place that I was like, whoa, where am I? Who is this? Whoa, what's going on? Right? There was definitely situations where I was like, oh my gosh, wait, who is this? Right? Because it's a complete new character, and Tchaikovsky would build them out. But for the most part, that the places that you go throughout the narrative are foreshadowed or talked about beforehand. Right? There's only 1 or 2 places. I would say there's maybe 2 really jarring chapters for me where we went something completely different that didn't feel like I didn't feel like I knew where it was going. Right? Throughout the first few chapters is a really good indicator. If you can get through those first few chapters, right, where you have the next chapter POV is foreshadowed in the chapter beforehand, and maybe you can see it, maybe you can't. But if you can go with that, then definitely continue on. But I will say that there's still going to be constant POV switches throughout the entirety of the book. I think it works really well, right? It's really good. I think the last thing that I want to talk about is that Tchaikovsky he wears the themes of his book on his sleeve throughout it, right? I've talked about rebellion. I've talked about like the tribalism of mankind. There's oppression. You have imperialism. You have just like the human failures of faith, whether it's a human's faith in God, a human's faith in the system, in, the city, or even other humans. There's a lot of just that. I think that they're easy. I think these themes are easy to pick up on, and then heavy in like the implications of all of it. Right. There are definitely a lot of things that you can sit down and just read a chapter and then just think on what he kind of said a little bit in there. And it's really good. Right. I think that's one of the big things about this book that I loved, is that it sat down and made me think about the city and think about, just everything going on with it. And the world was deep and vibrant and interesting. And I loved it. So I definitely think that you should read The City of Last Chances. It is releasing its physical copy in, I believe, May, if I remember correctly. In the US, it is already out in the UK. The ebook is out in the US, and I believe the audiobook as well. So definitely pick it up. It's really good. And just check out Adrian Tchaikovsky, because I feel like he's, in my experience with the wider world of book readers, outside of the little bubble that I have community around myself, I do think Tchaikovsky is a little bit underrated, and that more people should try to read his books. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great rest of your day, and make sure to get some rest, because rest is super, super important.